talking about Saturn going through Pisces, your 11th house, and we don't want you to go anywhere. People don't want you to go any place other than where they are. They're going to lead you around in a circle. They're going to come back to the same place. They don't want you to leave the community. They don't want you talking to anybody else. They are scared you're going to fall in love with other people, or that you don't want them anymore. It's very possible to have some aggressive friends, or to be part of something where you are like a little jewel, like a little gem. Nobody wants to tell you this also. So people are sort of keeping your feelings to a minimum. They don't want to tell you that you've been chosen, or you've been doted on, or you've been loved for such a long time. It's easy to have a secret love, meaning they love you or you love them. It's very easy to not be honest though, and not want to be part of it. It's very easy to have a crush on your employer, or for example your friend, to be very in love with you. It's very kind of gimmicky, and it's a little bit twisted. It's a little bit sickly for quite a lot of people if they don't just allow the feelings to be what they are. So for example, secret love affairs, not being sure where you stand with somebody, being told what to do, sexual or emotional feelings that are out of proportion, lustful energy, being in lust, or being an object of somebody else's attention without wanting to be that, people caring for you, people craving you, people telling you stories. Like, all of that is gross, and let's just get it normal. So if you like somebody, just tell them you like them. If you don't like them, don't say anything, but like, maybe you have to also. If somebody's possessing you, if somebody's trying to get into your bed, or they're trying to get into your life, just be really honest. Be like, hey, what's up? I'm this, for example, this is my spouse. Now, what do you want? It's quite good to get out of that stickiness. And unfortunately, a lot of people that have lived in settlements for a majority of their time here on the planet, they don't know how to do that. And I think that a lot of people might be very young and naive and even silly, not knowing what is going on. So basically what this makes is very uncomfortable, awkward, sickly, and scary collectives. Like, for example, if you sleep around and you don't want to tell anybody, and everybody kind of knows, but they don't know, nobody knows where they stand. Like, so much of your attention and your money and your status is dependent on these groups, and there's so much filth sometimes, or there's so much secrecy in certain experiences, and also like people you see on the street, like all of it is just so tacky and sickly and sticky and disjointed. So the best way to do it is to be wholesome, open, normal, and great, and just be kind, and make sure that if you see anything weird happening, that you tell somebody. Also, if you, for example, notice a crime in your community, that you tell somebody. If you've been solicited or approached for certain things that are like really out of the ordinary, that you take that out of your system straight away. If you have a best friend that is trying to get into your pocket, or trying to get into your life, or wants to be in your bedroom, that you make it obvious that you don't want that, that you're very, very strong and educated, and you don't let other people grow you into somebody you don't want to be. So for example, being spoiled by people, being dealt drugs, being given a lot of love, also being criminalized. And sometimes it's very hard, like for attractive people in certain situations, like attractive for maybe many reasons, to be seduced and to be played with and to be kind of circled by certain little sharks, who then eventually make you into a person that you don't want to be. So for example, having too many sexual partners, or having too many lies, or having too many hidden secrets in a group, or having not enough say in certain things, and having to be an awkward and unclean experiences can eventually cost you a lot. And I don't think that you need to do this. So for example, sexually transmitted disease, being looked at as a weird person, having no reputation, having no place to go. Also so hard for a Taurus, having no place to go, having no relationships, no solidity or no truth, is something that happens when you basically let other people control you, and allowing other people's thoughts, feelings, cultures, or sensibilities to be part of your journey. So what basically this looks like is that you're sort of cross-pollinating with us, and you're letting us, other people, rule or control parts of your consciousness. So for example, if somebody thinks you should be with, like, polyamorous, for example. You might also think that, and eventually, basically, it starts to destroy you, and just makes rubbish feelings and rubbish pedestrian experiences and such. So it's not necessarily for all people, but it's very important to see that those of us that are around you have to be attuned, they have to be caring, they have to start to show up and stand up, and also be counted and have some will. And also maybe you have to come into a certain level of respect of other people if they've always been standing their ground and they've always been respectful of you and others. If you have respectable members of society, if you have a good, strong partner, if you have faithful friends, it's so good to hold on to those bones of your kingdom, basically, if you can imagine. So all those parties and all those crazy things and crazy thought patterns aside, there probably would be just a one simple home, just a one simple village. And don't be afraid that in some ways this whole transit is just about narrowing down who you are and narrowing down all those people in your life into just natural few. So maybe you right now understand that you can be anywhere, and there's lots of parties, and there's lots of philosophy and art, and wow, and maybe even arrogance, arrogant people. There's like quite a lot of community, quite a lot of commitments that could be given to you, and maybe even responsibility. So people want you to run a group, or they want you to be around, or they just like you. They just like your smell, they like your dress, they like your eyes, they just like you. You're lucky for us. You've been lucky for a long time. Wonderful person, Taurus, Uranus, and the North Node and everything. Apart from that, the idea basically is to filter everything and to make a nice, simple conglomerate of friends. So out of the 200 or 300 people that are working with you today, there are probably going to be just 5 people that survive it. Out of all of these people that are telling you how and what, you'll probably only really trust just the 1 or 2 people. That's not good also. It's not about like narrowing it down entirely. It's just about knowing what you're about and what you really want, which is something that Taurus cannot right now do. Because it's just so hard to miss out on opportunity. And some of it might be kind of behind the scenes stuff, and it might be like a little bit skittish or afraid. People don't also like you for that sometimes, like caring for something so much. You don't even care if it's dishonest or if it's broken down or if it's a broken record, because you basically just want to be part of that person's life. So wanting to save people and wanting to stand by them no matter what, and wanting to harbor their secrets. It's like having a wife and a child, and for example, your wife's friend has tried to have a relationship with you, and you didn't want to break that person down because you've grown to really like them, and you don't really want to like say anything bad, and you don't want to be honest, and you don't want to harm them, but you also kind of didn't really need to do what you did with them, and blah blah blah, like all of these very sticky messes and behind the scenes activity. You might be too kind and too cultured to say no, and you might be also not able to just say it like it is. We don't want to evolve you into a dishonest person basically by the end of this time. I think that with Aries Saturn from 2026 is going to be so hard for us all to witness dishonesty. I think dishonesty is going to be persecuted. I feel that karmic or uncomfortable people are just going to be very seen, and people are going to be shy of them. So any taboos crossed, or any people that you've invited into your life are going to become very obvious. But in some people's cases, never mattered, because their optimism, which is what makes Saturn obsolete sometimes, their optimism is bigger than that. So being an optimistic person saying, hey, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to take this for a spin, I'm just going to go for a ride, that's also great. It's just whether or not you believe in yourself later, that's all. And sometimes people don't believe in themselves, and they experience very dubious or very weird experiences in their life because they've just basically done so much crazy stuff. Like they've been on so many people's beds or in so many people's lives that they don't actually even remember how to have any integrity, how to feel good about who they are. It's kind of a biological issue sometimes people have. While we are going through certain experiences, we think it's okay. Sure, like I read on the internet that was totally normal or whatever. And then eventually, no, it wasn't normal, and experiencing those things especially when it comes to any kind of sensual or emotional activity with people, experiencing those really hardcore changes in your life also, it's like a question mark. Where did I come to eventually? Did I really do that well? And even if you don't really feel pain or pressure from what might occur during a Pisces Saturn, it's kind of like, ah, oh, my God, I'm like one of those people, or like, ah, I did all of that stuff. Even if you're really optimistic about what you did, it's still going to, in a way, shortchange you. So, for example, being a person who made lots of friends and had lots of experiences and maybe slept around or did some very dubious things, you might not feel that bad about it. You might even say, yeah, that's just what life is, whatever. But like, eventually to have an actual partner that lasts will probably be impossible. It's like 5 months relationships max. That is something that happens sometimes. It's like a biological self-understanding, and also having certain type of mental disease or lack of capacity for certain experiences because of the damage done during your 11th house Saturn. So what I mean is, like, after certain experiences, sometimes a person cannot come back to a normal life. So, for example, after certain type of violence or war or crisis, or taking certain, I don't know, supplements or being part of certain things, it's just very hard to eventually stitch your life back together. So the idea basically is to be as neutral and right as you can be. You can also be very, very extreme here. Like, for example, if you catch your friend out and lying or cheating, maybe that's something that you also need to recognize. Being frugal with a person who has betrayed you, that needs to be recognized. And also, yeah, people that didn't really want to have you around, but they kind of joined you with them, and then eventually turned out they had no integrity. That's really difficult. Integral, strong collectives and cultures, being part of a neurologically exquisite family of people eventually, because you can be a part of things that really mean something and that nurture you. It's just so difficult sometimes. Like, I think also for me as a reader to see, to state, like, some people with Taurus energies, if they don't think something was true but they did it, it's like hard to wash. It doesn't come out in the wash. It doesn't come out in the wash. One of the most beautiful things about you guys is just like how wholesome and tribal and comfortable and young and pure you guys are. And then basically not to have any more things happen in your life that would tarnish that. So being in an impure experience, or being in a certain type of emotional position, being obsessed about money, or having extreme experiences, or making love with somebody who you shouldn't be making love with. There's just like some very, very hard stuff that can happen eventually, and it's your own body, it's your own structures that might jeopardize. So it's like sinfulness. It's not just this, it's like, it's just hard. It's hard if you know that you've been part of something. You know, if you've grown yourself into a certain type of person, if you've been jealous or angry, envious, or if you've done something really crazy with somebody. Basically, it's kind of like about sinfulness, I suppose, though I don't personally like that word or the dogma behind it. Doing things that you just basically understand are just not good for a person to do. Then it basically becomes very obvious as to who you are, and you yourself might rule yourself out of certain experience. So it's not about the government closing the door on you, or like that person walking away, although some of it will be that. It's just you yourself will not be able to treat yourself well, treat yourself properly out of certain experiences that you potentially have generated. Then also asking maybe about regression and time and how you have behaved since you were a child. And if you have been part of anything that you may say is a bad thing to do, like say if you stole something from a store as a child, or if you've been subjected also to some very raw or cruel behavior by your parents, there's just a lot of unpacking to do for some Tauruses to get to the bottom as to why certain experiences occur, why certain karmas occur. Like, what has made you bring that unfaithful person into your family, or what has made you bring that debt into your life, or what has made you part of a team of people that don't see you, that don't answer you, so what has created these really raw side effects, cause and effects in your world. So it's about like understanding the karmic tissues of reality and how you were also as a kid. And also sometimes it's good to see what your parents were. So for example, if your father had a drinking problem, that is going to eventually inevitably to sort of how can I say, it will inevitably show up in your day. So if you've had parents that were very abusive or very rude or mean to you, that's going to eventually put you into certain type of karmas. So it's just important not to necessarily think about this in this way, because I don't think that everybody has the guts or the time to do it. But yeah, there's definitely a resolution that needs to be found in a nice, wholesome, simple, real, and truthful world, will come of that which you have going on. But I also see people experiencing a lot of infidelity during this 11th house Saturn. It's very easy for you this time in some ways, and you might be spoken badly of or done things with. Maybe your reputation might fall, but you might not care. And then eventually just having a laugh. If you too maybe have a lot of Scorpio or even Virgo in your system, you might eventually find out how to just have a laugh about things. And that's okay. That's also okay. There is something about you that can afford to, in the coming like 4 to 6 years, just have a laugh about the world. It's like, yeah, sure, like I did this crazy stuff. Who cares? Yeah, it was funny. I know that feeling. Optimism, as I said earlier, cancels out a lot of Saturn activity. You can just be optimistic about it. And then eventually you can laugh about it. Then the cause and effect changes a little bit, but you will have to experience certain experiences day in, day out. It won't help you evolve, basically. Yeah, like evolution. What do I mean getting you evolved? It's like treating Saturn with dignity and with respect. Certain laws are here for a reason. Certain rule books are here for a reason. Not making any change also to certain structures is an important thing. But yeah, I do understand some people are just going to have a ball of crazy behavior, and then also be okay about that. And maybe there is a need for it. And these parts of society exist that are constantly laughing in the face of danger, or there's criminal activities. There are special tribes that are meant to be wild. But then who are you going to be and where are you going to be? That's a question. It's a weird little world, but that also exists. Experiencing madness or experiencing tribal, how can I say, infidelity, or having a lot of really crazy activity in your life. Being part of a very crazy tribe, being a crazy person, that can also be an okay thing. Then who are you out of that? So for example, where do these people live? Where do they go? What kind of parties do they have? What is their life like? How do they get on with life? So there are certain people that will be naturally, in a way, by the end of this transit, or even in the middle of this transit, dispassion to certain categories of people, to certain karmas that are collective karmas. Like, for example, all of these people on the dole smoking crack, okay, or it's a bit hardcore, like all of those people that enjoy sleeping around, like they kind of get known, and okay, these people just enjoy mixing, and that's it, or the people that just do whatever they can for a job, and whether or not they make it through the day is whatever, people that have no supports, people that have also great supports. And this is actually a very interesting thing. This is very curious. If you were really righteous and you were very strong, and you tried to get your life very good, and you tried to make it all very clean, you might have a very small community in the end. You might have only 4 or 5 people Or maybe you will have a certain part in the world, or you'll have a certain plan. Like it'll just be this or that. Like it'll be quite strict. Then, for example, if you go into very extreme experiences, like for example, you go into drinking or any kind of habits that are not naturally supported by neutral systems in the world, you might have many friends. None of them are probably very kind, but you will have a lot of things go up and down, go up and down, go up and down constantly. So that flux of, like, for example, traveling, or the flux of having lots and lots and lots of beds, or lots of partners, or a lot of money from crazy things, so then not any money, and then this and that. Like, so these like sort of experiences that are not necessarily chaotic. They're kind of wild experiences that can also be. But then, okay, being wild, being crazy, say, for example, living abroad, I don't know, feeling all these feelings and being a part of all these people's lives. There are lots of people that will want to live like that in the next coming era. So it's like being crazy, working in the sex industry, having crazy things happen in one's life, taking certain substances, being part of the wilderness and wanting to preserve that wilderness. Yeah, that can also take place. It's like a medley of people. It's like a whole big starship of people. You can be really, really unlimited there. So yeah, certain Tauruses, if you did want to be that person, you can be. But consider your self-respect. Consider if you were ever in harm's way, what would be the case? Like, what would happen? Consider if you had a child, where would they live? Consider how you would be as an adult, if these chemicals or these people are doing you harm or damage. So this, I guess this is something that I shouldn't really necessarily need to talk about. It's just about your structure and your value system. So because I've been through a lot in my life, I've grown to notice that life is a fragile thing, and you got to be honest and truthful. And Saturn is about truth and honesty. You just got to basically go through things and be kind and just. This is what I've learned in my 37 years of life. Being calm and just, and basically trying to nurture what you have and being respectful to who you are. So also being respectful to your body and your system and your health, and your hair and nails, and your teeth. Being respectful to your home, being respectful to your spouse, and then out of that sense of diligence and clarity, a huge dimension of trust and worth, and a huge kind of answer can come. And like, there is nothing better than living a certain life where you know that you are not in harm's way, that you are respectful and you're respected by society. Respectful lives, I feel, in contrast to what my mother's life was and other people's lives were around me, respectful lives, I feel, is how we are as beings. I feel that having respectful, naturally pure lives is not a bohemian or kind of a classist or religious thing. I feel it is a normal thing for a human. I feel it's normal to be a nice person. Like, basically, that's how I look at life. But there are certain people that would say, chaos and vulnerability, and even not necessarily vulgarity. I would say rebellion is the natural state of people. So there's also, I suppose, different types of classist systems within those systems. There's different musical movements, and then there's different political movements, and there's different like conglomerates of people that basically like you to be a certain way, but they also like a certain type of life and a certain type of tribe, and it's like a matter of taste sometimes, but it's not necessarily a matter of wisdom. So basically, I suppose what I'm trying to bring you is the concept of purity and faith and trust, because something on a cellular level knows what is true. Like, say, when things are true and when things aren't. This is like a cellular level thing, like cellular memory as well. It's like you understand for your body, you know. It's not just about like what someone says or like how the Bible or another holy scripture like depicts life. But then there are, of course, like people and whole countries and cultures that don't respect that, you know. So, like, where you find yourself out during this time is, I suppose, completely up to you. And yes, there are certain Taurus people that would love to experience states of untruth, states of untruth. Um, and I do understand that there's a lot of ego there, and there's a lot of like, I. I can do whatever I want. I can sleep with whoever I want. I can do this. I can do. Consider surfacing that as quick as it happens. So, for example, if you decided to have a certain karmic connection with one of your friends who is also dating your cousin, for example, tell them about it. Tell them all about it. Tell them about it. Oh, but I don't want to tell them about it. It's like, why? Why not? Oh, no, 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 no. Or like, why don't you tell everybody that you are smoking a certain substance or that you partake in certain experiences? Oh, I can't tell them. Why? Oh, it's not safe for me to say. It's, okay, I can't do that. Well, that's like that scattery sort of like mouse-like or like rat-like sort of rodenty thing that happens, you know, like when people want to hide where they're from and what they get up to every day. They get really afraid of it, and they also get really scared of other people that know what they're up to, you know. So, like, for example, please consider if you are behaving, well, quote unquote, badly, to come out with it. And what makes sometimes bad behavior is a person that has to be on the run after they commit it, or they have to be dishonest about it. So it's like, I can't tell anybody I've been intimate with this person. It's like, well, that's humiliating. People that have to hide how they make money, or people that have to never tell anybody about what they do, but they're kind of part of this little clique where everybody thinks it's fine and everybody's just having some fun. So that's what you see as unclean. And why is because it is secret, but also because it is unsafe to do, and that is why you cannot tell anybody that you've done it. So having secrets is not something that I feel is sane or safe during this time, because secrets can be a part of your demise in this time or later on in time. You know, so that's basically how I look at that. But I suppose it's up to you. Nobody's telling you what to do. The whole point is that I feel, in comparison to some signs, you're actually very free. So the Saturn in your 11th house is not like a binding. I feel that some Tauruses are very free, but like also ask as to how you're going to eventually put it all together if there are certain unconscious whirlpools of energy working with you. It's just important to know who you are and to stand your ground. I feel that standing your ground and going with the higher frequencies or going with higher values is going to help you get out of it, basically, and not be a part of certain experiences that you don't have to have during a life. So thank you very much, Taurus. I hope this has been helpful to some. Enjoy and have a look at the links below. I'll see you next time.